A legendary experiment once shook the foundations of psychological science, forcing experts to rethink everything we believed about human perception. But now, a fresh discovery adds a surprising new layer to this ongoing debate. Have you ever wondered if your eyes truly show you the same reality as everyone else? This question has fascinated psychologists for decades. Back in 1956, three pioneering social scientists, Donald Campbell and Melville Herskovits from Northwestern University, alongside Marshall Siegel from Syracuse University, embarked on an ambitious global quest to uncover whether perception is universal or culturally influenced. They dispatched research teams across drastically different environments: bustling Johannesburg near a gold mine, a group of hunter-gatherers deep within the Kalahari Desert, the Philippine island of Mindoro, and even their own college campus in Evanston, Illinois. Each team carried a booklet containing a series of drawings prominently featuring the Müller-Lyer illusion. Perhaps you recognize it. Two horizontal lines of equal length, one tipped with arrowheads pointing inward and the other outward. To most people in the U.S., the line with inward-pointing arrows appears longer, though mathematically it isn't. The big question was, does this illusion trick the eyes everywhere in the world? When they completed their study in 1961, the findings stunned the psychological community. While Illinois students consistently saw the illusion, African Zulu pastoralists barely noticed the trick, and the sand foragers of the Kalahari showed no illusion effect at all. They saw both lines as the same length. Unlike subjective differences in interpreting abstract art or novels, this suggested a fundamental variation in visual perception between cultures. How could human eyesight differ so profoundly based on geography and upbringing? Before diving into what this means, let's clarify why it's significant in psychology. The field strives to unearth universal truths about how the human mind works. Yet most studies historically depended on narrow, convenient samples, often Western college students, who are easily accessible and willing to participate. Psychologists have increasingly questioned if findings about topics ranging from political beliefs to mental health conditions genuinely apply worldwide or just to a specific privileged demographic. This awareness birthed the term weird, capturing the typical research subjects as Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic, groups that do not represent humanity as a whole. Over the past decade and a half, researchers have been pushing to include more diverse populations. That raises the crucial issue: which psychological phenomena are shaped by culture, and which ones are deeply human constants? That's why the Muller-Lyer illusion became such a key case study. It's one thing to accept that opinions or habits differ globally. Anyone who has traveled knows that firsthand. But to propose that our very vision, the way our eyes interpret reality, varies by cultural experience, that's an extraordinary claim. Campbell and his colleagues went even further with their explanation. They suggested that exposure to carpentered environments dominated by straight lines and sharp angles like those in buildings and furniture primes individuals to see the illusion. Urban dwellers grow accustomed to rectangular shapes, so they tend to be fooled by the arrowhead's cues. In contrast, people raised in natural, less structured surroundings, like the Kalahari, encounter far fewer such geometric patterns, making them less susceptible. Anthropologists have since embraced this cultural byproduct hypothesis, framing the illusion as an unintended artifact of cultural evolution. This idea became entrenched in psychological teaching, often presented as a fascinating example of how visual processing is influenced by experience, and a stark warning about assuming human universals without considering context. The takeaway was clear and seemingly uncontested. We don't all literally see the world the same way. But here's where it gets controversial. We questioned this narrative. In our recent review of more than 100 years of visual perception research, we arrived at almost the opposite conclusion. The Muller-Lyer illusion, along with many elements of how we perceive the world, appears deeply rooted in human biology and shared broadly across populations. rather than crafted by cultural circumstances. Despite how compelling the original cross-cultural studies seemed, multiple lines of evidence challenge the cultural byproduct hypothesis. For one, many animals beyond humans also experience the Müller-Lyer illusion. In experiments, guppies trained to distinguish longer lines were fooled by the illusion in ways that parallel human responses. Other creatures, including horses, parakeets, monkeys, and lizards, demonstrate similar perceptual quirks. Are we to believe these species have their own forms of carpentry-inspired cultures? Clearly not. Another important insight is that the illusion works even when composed of curved lines, clusters of dots, or even faces. These variations undermine the idea that straight lines and angles found in built environments are essential triggers. Perhaps the most striking evidence comes from a remarkable humanitarian project called Prakash in North India. Children born blind from cataracts suddenly receive surgery, restoring clear vision for the first time in their lives. Astonishingly, within hours of their operation, these children experience the Muller-Lyer illusion just like sighted individuals. They had never seen boxes, windows, or any constructed environment, yet their brains still process the illusion. This strongly implies that the tendency to perceive such illusions is embedded in human vision itself, independent of cultural exposure. So why did the original study observe different results? Digging deeper, the body of cross-cultural data is far less consistent than commonly believed. Early 20th century studies found jungle populations in India more affected by the illusion than pastoralists nearby. Similar inconsistencies appeared within South African rural and urban groups. Even the famous study's own data contained contradictions. For example, mine workers living and working amidst man-made structures showed weaker illusion responses than one would expect. Moreover, these older studies faced methodological challenges. Translating task instructions into local dialects is tricky and may have led to misunderstandings about what participants were supposed to do. Researchers themselves sometimes expressed doubts about communication accuracy. There were also concerns about experimenter bias. Some admitted to urging participants toward expected answers or dismissing data that challenged their hypotheses. This means some illusion effects may have been underreported or overlooked. What does all this mean for psychological science today? Embracing human diversity in research unquestionably enriches our understanding and makes findings more applicable worldwide, a goal we fully support and pursue ourselves. Yet, we should also recognize that certain aspects of human perception appear remarkably universal, transcending culture and environment. So here's a question to leave you pondering. If something as fundamental as how we see lines can unite human experience across continents, what other psychological truths might be universal beneath the surface of our cultural differences? Or conversely, are there critical perceptual nuances still hidden in the shadows of cross-cultural variability? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you agree or disagree that the Muller-Lyer illusion reflects deep human nature rather than cultural influence? Share your perspective and let's spark a lively discussion.